Hi, my loves. I'm so excited to get into a new episode of our beautiful magical series of the planets, the signs, and the houses. And today it's all about Mars, Aries, and the first house. So we are talking about, like big, major topics because with Aries, the whole cycle of the 12 zodiacs starts. So, of course, all of these energies have a very, very important energy and message for us to work with. So let's start with our beautiful planet Mars. Mars is such an important planet for us also like to work with because this is our action planet. It's our planet of power, of energy, of willpower, and like Mars has such an intense extroverted energy. It's also the planet of male energy, so it already has the whole male topics in itself. Like if we talk about young, because Aries and also Mars is young orientated, that means like extroverted, loud, powerful, outgoing, doing something, like get into movement. And this is what Mars does with us, like you can see it like this, because it's one of the personality planets, so it's very important for us because like the sun gives us like the essence of knowing who we are, what we want, stuff like that. The moon is connected to our emotions and feelings. Then we have Mercury, that is our mind, that like let us think and get like into a plan, for example. Venus gives us the energy to make decisions out of love, what we desire. And then there's Mars that takes all of it and creates the action to get things done, to get something into movement. So it's very, very important. Also, if you work with your birth chart, because this is also what we always do when going through these videos, like you can see where Mars is in your birth chart, and then you feel, all right, like which energy do I have? Where does my motivation goes to? Like if it's in a fire sign, for example, I guess you really have a lot of power and energy, and you get things done. Like it's very fiery. And I guess like if you have it in a water sign, it's more emotional, like the things that you desire and where your motivation is going to is more like orientated onto feelings, for example. So let's have a look where your Mars is in which sign as well as in which house, and already get into the feeling. Like Mars is a big fireball. Like the Earth was also a big fireball before the moon, like was created out of the Earth. Before it also was like a big hot fireball and nothing could exist because there was so much sun energy creating this fire on Earth, for example. And also Mars is this big fireball, so it has a lot of tension, like a very explosive energy as well. So it has a very, very extreme power. It can create a lot. Like before people were exploring Pluto, for example, Mars was the planet of Scorpio, for example, because it has so much power. It can create so much good, but also so much bad, because like Mars also makes us here on Earth sometimes very fiery. And to be fiery is very beautiful if you know what you're doing, and if you also are grounded and you really know, like what is my energy and why am I doing this. But also Mars can make us fiery in a negative way because like it creates a very impulsive and explosive energy. So this is why we have to be aware of how our very own explosive and fiery hot energy is created. Like Mars is our action planet. So everything that Mars is touching, or like when Mars is getting closer to another planet, for example, it brings the topic of the other planet into action, into movement. Like everything that Mars is touching is activated. There are things going on or start to go on, for example. Like we already talked about Jupiter, for example. When Jupiter gets close to another planet, it expands the energy, it makes them like more strong and more meaningful. Mars activates it as well, and brings movement into it. And as Mars is all about movement and like the big and fiery hot energy, it's also about the topic of sexuality, for example. So you can also get some information about your very own sexuality, like how you are driven to specific things out of where Mars is placed in your birth chart. So again, like if you have it in a fire sign, for example, like in, let's take Sagittarius, I really think that you really want like the big, hot sexual connection to people. Like it has to be very much and very creative as well. Like you really love to explore new things. Maybe it's also connected to other cultures and other philosophies of other cultures that you really want to get into, tantra or stuff like that, for example. If Mars is in, let me say, like Cancer, I really think that you have to be very safe and secure with your partner. You really have to feel like home, and everything has to be like very emotional connected, for example. So Mars is our planet of great action, of movement, of doing things, of activation, and of great willpower. So let us go to Aries. Aries is our third zodiac sign. Of course, it is ruled by the element fire, ruled by Mars. So it has a lot of fire energies, and fire energies are always very ambitious, and especially when we talk about Aries. Aries is the first of the zodiac sign. So this is also the energy that Aries has. Like if you have a lot of Aries energy, you really are so driven and motivated and ambitious to achieve all of your goals, because you have so many big and high visions, and you really want to be the best in it. Like it's not just about achieving them, but to truly be the one and only. And like your visions are so high and so big, and maybe you even have like a load of visions, because this is also the fiery energy. Like there are so many topics and things popping up, and like Aries people mostly are very interested in many different parts. They want to know it all, and also they want to have it in the second. Like if they are desiring something, they want it now, immediately, in this second, and all of it, the best part of it. Like I really think that this is very beautiful and very funny, because really all Aries people that I got to know, I was raised also by two Aries people. My mother and father both are Aries, so I know this energy a lot. I really found this energy in each and everyone. Like all of them are so motivated to do things and to get things done, and not to think that much about it. Like of course you always have to also look at the other parts of how your moon is, how like your Venus and all of the stuff, like in which energy they are, but like in general they just do it. You know, like the Nike slogan is just like the best wording for Aries. Just do it. You know, don't think too much. If you feel it, do it. Jump into the cold water, take risks, and just do it. And if you fall down, who cares? Stand up and go on, you know? And this is something that is very inspiring, I think. You know, like many people are thinking too much and therefore not doing things. And I feel I think it's very inspiring. So I love the slogan and the energy of Aries a lot. So if we go further, you know, like Aries people are people that you can do like really everything with, you know, like break into a pool and you like just do something very wild and crazy. They will be up to, you know, what's very good, but also what's sometimes not that easy with Aries people or even for themselves is that they have so much fire, you know, and this can be very strenuous when you don't know how to handle it. You know, like when you don't know how to ground yourself, to set a base, and you know, like to keep all of the things going on in yourself down to like a plan or a structure, an order, you know, like they have so many visions, but if something doesn't work immediately as well, you know, like they just put it back and start the next thing. Because this is the Aries energy, you know, like they don't want to limit themselves, you know, they just want to always go on, go on, go on, go on. But this is also something that they have to learn because some things just need time and some things just need to be focused on the challenges that will pop up because nothing always is easy. And it's the challenges that bring us closer and closer to where we shall be. You know, like we have to just rest for a second and just reflect, okay, what's not working and why isn't it working? How can I make it better so that it will work, you know? And this is something that Aries people are kind of not that easy to go with because resting and not doing something, this is hard for them. Because, you know, like they sometimes really have the feeling I always have to do in order to be worthy. I always have to deliver, you know, like I'm not allowed to just rest. This is something that really is so important for Aries people or people with a lot of Aries energy to learn, to just rest and reflect on how they are feeling, you know? Because like also what is an Aries energy is that they have the feeling that they always have to do everything on their own and they don't need any help from others. But you know, this is what they can learn from their opposite sign of Libra. You know, sometimes it's even more powerful if you connect with others and you are allowed to make mistakes and to not always be like the strong and powerful fighting babe, you know? You are also allowed to be emotional and to feel things and to not always work. Another thing that is sometimes not that easy for Aries people or for people with that connect with Aries people is the topic of communication. Because as they have so much fire and they are so motivated to get things done, you know, like to get into movement, they speak very fast and also very impulsive and direct, you know, like sometimes it's just, you know, like they're saying things before thinking it through, you know what I mean? Like the words are just, you know, like popping up and coming out. And sometimes it's not the most emotional way. So people sometimes feel kind of overwhelmed with what Aries people say or how they communicate. But also, you know, like it's not always, you know, like this is maybe also sometimes a situation where you're allowed to not take everything so personal. And I love people who are direct because then you always know what they are truly thinking. You know what I mean? The thing that Aries people or people with a lot of Aries energy are allowed to learn is to also think about others and how it may make them feel. You know what I mean? It's okay to say it because this is in their nature, but when saying it, also get into the energy of someone else, because Aries stands also for the ego. This is also what we will talk when we talk about the first house. They are very self-orientated, as they are the first ones, and sometimes they are too much focused on themselves. And this is nothing that is bad, This happens subconsciously as well. And this is something that they also are allowed to learn, to not always see every situation just out of their own perspective, but also how can, how do other people feel in this situation, and how can I also help and support them. So this is like Aries energy. Also, Aries is a cardinal sign, what means that they always bring movement into a situation. So I guess this is also what we already talked about. When it comes to Aries specifically, it's very connected to the outer world. So for example, Cancer is also a cardinal sign, but at Cancer the movement is in the inner world, in the emotions, in the feeling, and Aries is always connected with the outer world, always, how they communicate or what they are doing is always connected with things or situations or people of the outer world. So cardinal sign. When we go now to the first house, so the first house is a very, very big topic, and I guess all of you are already connected with your first house, with maybe not knowing it consciously. Why? Because the first house always begins with your rising sign, and nearly all of you, or I think all of you who are watching this video, I think you know your rising sign, and this is the energy then that invites your identity. So the first house is all about the identity, so in which energy you are growing into. So this is why the rising sign is so important. Just that it was even more important than our sun sign, because this is the energy that we are growing into. This is the energy that we will feel more connected with each and every year. This is the energy that starts when we are starting the second part of our life. This is how you communicate it. When you're a child, you feel more connected, or you are more your moon sign, because you are acting out of your subconscious mind. You are acting out of your emotions. Then you grow and you learn to control yourself. You know what's right, what's wrong, and you are acting more out of your sun sign, that is very aware of what's right, what's wrong. It's the essence, it's our conscious mind. And the older you get, you grow into the energy of your first house. And have a look how many planets are in your first house, and which topics do they activate. For example, if you have a Venus in your first house, the energy that you identify yourself is very, very much on what you love. So if you love art, because let me say, your first house is in Libra, for example, as well, you really identify yourself with everything beautiful, with art, with poetry, with music. You really truly also are a very loving and caring character. You really identify yourself also with all of your relations, maybe as well with your love partner, for example. All right? So the energy your first house is in. You know, the energy you can read at the zodiac sign it is in. It's very, very, very much important, connected to your identity. This is also sometimes an energy that we have to learn. We really have to grow into it. And what is very important is just, like how big it is, how many planets are in it, you know. For example, I had once a client that had so many planets in the first house. So many planets. Also in the first quarter of the birth chart. And this planet, this client, not planet, but she's also a planet, you know. But this client was very, very much focused on herself. She was very good at being alone and doing stuff on her own, and everything that she did or does is very much connected to herself, to her identity of what she loves, what she's talking about, and all of the stuff. She really doesn't need someone else in her life. So I don't know if she will ever, start a real relationship, for example, because she doesn't need it, you know? And so I really think it's very interesting what's going on in your first house, because it's so big, in the essence. And if there's nothing going on, if you don't have any planet in your first house, it's good as well, You have your focus on somewhere else, Maybe you don't have to work with yourself so much, on who you are and how the others see you. Because, in the first half of your life, you sometimes really already, or people already see you as your rising sign, as the identity of your first house, but you aren't it now, And this is really very, very much on how others see you, and you are allowed to work it through if it feels also good for you, to be seen in that way. So work it through, what is your first house? If Mars is in your first house, you receive a superpower, because Mars feels very at home at the first house, of course, and therefore also the fiery energy is very much your identity. And you still can be, for example, a Scorpio rising sign, but if Mars is also in Scorpio, you have a lot of power. Wow. I mean, Mars in Scorpio is big and very much intense, So, yeah. Have a look at your birth chart. Explore your Mars, explore your Aries energy if you have any parts of yourself in Aries, if this is a topic that is also in yourself, and also have a look at your beautiful first house, and let me know if this helps you, if maybe you also had some realizations when going through your birth chart, and I'm very excited to hear from you. And we will see each other again in the following video when we talk about Taurus energy and beautiful Venus energy and the second house, what is all about money. So I'm happy to see you soon again, and I send all my love to you. Mwah.